Episode number 895, Intentional Legacy.
You're listening to the official BNI podcast with BNI founder and Chief Visionary Officer, Dr. Ivan Misner. Stay tuned for networking and referral marketing tips from the man who's been called the father of modern networking, along with suggestions and insights into getting the most from your membership in the world's largest networking organization, BNI.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the official BNI podcast. I'm Priscilla Rice, and I'm coming to you from Live Oak Recording Studio in Berkeley, California, and I'm joined on the phone today by the founder and the Chief Visionary Officer of BNI, Dr. Ivan Misner. Hello, Ivan. How are you, and where are you?
I am doing fantastic. I just got back from Mexico, Puerto Vallarta area. I did a BNI event. I did a Corporate Connections event, which is a sister company to BNI. And then I did my annual semi-annual TLC meeting, the Transformational Leadership Council.
Wow.
It's a great week. Got a lot done.
Uh-huh. And what do you have for us today?
I've got I think a fun story that I'm going to share. And this comes from my latest book, Infinite Legacy. And it's a book that I wrote with Greg Davies and Julian Lewis, and you can see it on the right side of the podcast where all the books are. And if you have a chance, check it out. As we have just had the 40th anniversary of BNI, started in 1985, I'm often asked about legacy and what I'd like to leave in life. And the question reminded me of a story of another businessman who almost left an accidental legacy instead of an intentional legacy. This is a long time ago, more than 100 years ago, sitting at a table in a cafe, the middle of the 19th century in Paris. A successful inventor, industrialist, millionaire drank a coffee and set about updating himself on the news and current affairs. And, while we benefit from notifications on our phone and streaming news 24 hours a day, back then it was, a newspaper sitting there, drinking coffee and reading the news. And so he turned the pages, scanning different items, and got to the obituary section of the newspaper. And he was really shocked because the headline read, "The Merchant of Death is dead." And it was his name. It had his name. And he read the obit to make sure that it was really him and not somebody else with his name. And, he thought maybe it was just sloppy journalism because his brother had passed away not long before that. And, but he realized it wasn't. And he was shocked at what the world would say about him as a successful chemist, engineer, inventor, businessman. And he held 350 patents. And this back in the 1800s, he owned all those patents. And so the implication was clear. The person who he had become rich as, by finding ways to kill people faster, it actually said that in the obituary. This person has become rich by finding ways to kill people faster than ever before. And as often is the case, inventions with noble intentions can sometimes lead to multiple purposes of the invention. What he had invented was TNT, or dynamite, and in order to he did it to safely mine resources from mountains and to help with construction. And this well-known story of mistaken reporting in the 1800s was the driving factor in his decision to change his legacy. So within a few years, he signed his last will and testament in Paris's Swedish Norwegian Club. He was 62 years old then, and he decided to use some of his personal fortune to support and encourage the work of scientists and inventors from around the world. And this document described a project that was far more ambitious than anyone could have imagined. In a relatively short document, it had less than 1,000 handwritten words. It laid out a plan to to devote a huge amount of his personal fortune. In fact, it was the majority of his estate, which was valued at almost $250 million in today's money. And he wanted to give them to these series of awards. And these awards were dedicated to those who, during the preceding year, conferred the greatest benefit to humankind. The awards consisted initially of 5 prizes. The first 3 were the greatest discoveries or inventions in a field of medicine or chemistry or physics. The 4th was a standalone prize in the field of literature for the most outstanding work. And the final prize was awarded to the person who would have done the most or the best work for fraternity between nations and the abolition of reduction of standing armies. And in 1968, a 6th prize was added in the field of economics. So despite paying out millions, multiple prizes annually, each with the current value of $1.1 million. So everyone who gets one of these prizes gets $1.1 million. The working fund, despite that, has grown to $570 million and is used to recognize and recognize some of the greatest achievements of humanity. So the man's name was Alfred Nobel.
Mm.
When you think of Nobel today, you don't think of dynamite. As a matter of fact, most people don't even know that he invented dynamite. But most people overwhelmingly know of the Nobel Prizes, including the Nobel Peace Prize, which was one of those prizes. And so he went from having this accidental legacy, this legacy of the creation of something that was used for good, but was also used to harm people, and decided that he wanted an intentional legacy. Now, I tell you this story to demonstrate that no matter where you are in your journey, no matter how you are currently perceived by those around you, you have the power and the opportunity to create the legacy that you desire. He did this in his 60s. The notion of legacy is often entwined with ideas of wealth or historical impact. It's deeply philosophical. And in the book, Infinite Legacy, we paraphrase Jean-Paul Sartre. I may have mentioned this in my previous podcast on legacy. We paraphrase Jean-Paul Sartre, who was a towering figure in existential philosophy, and he provided a compelling perspective on legacy through a poignant observation in his play No Exit. He said, "One always dies too soon or too late, and yet their life is complete at that moment, with a line drawn neatly under it, ready for the summing up. You are your deeds in life and little more. It's your contributions in life that make a difference." I've talked a lot in my podcasts about how we all have people that are in our story. Someone has made a difference in our life, but the true legacy to leave is, whose story are you in? Whose life have you changed? Who have you helped in the world? And during our lifetimes, we all have the opportunity to create either an accidental legacy or an intentional legacy. Nobel realized that he was about to leave an accidental legacy, one that he didn't want. So instead, he determined to leave an intentional one. It's one that we all recognize today. We may not have the type of wealth that Nobel had for his legacy. However, we all have the power to make our own legacy intentional. True legacy is not in the success of our endeavors, but in the impact that we've made on others. And I say, leave an intentional legacy in the world by making a positive impact in the life of others before the line is drawn neatly under your life, ready for the summing up.
That's great.
And that is my message for today. If anyone's interested, that is one of the opening stories to the book, Infinite Legacy, the 7 principles of creating a lasting impact with your life. And again, you don't have to be rich to leave a lasting legacy. My parents had no money. They were blue collar worker. My mother had serious medical issues and was a stay-at-home mom. But my mother taught me whatever people skills I have, I got from my mother, not my father. But I got my work ethic from my father. And they left a legacy in that I learned to work hard. I learned how to connect with people, and I was able to build an organization that's now in well over 70 countries around the world. And that's a legacy that they left with the pebble that they dropped in the water and the ripples that come from that. And so leave an intentional legacy. Start thinking about what you're doing to help other people in their life.
Boy, that's a powerful message. Really. I appreciate that so much. I'm going to have to get your book.
Oh, yes, please. It really got me thinking because, the more gray hair I get, the more people ask me, what's your legacy? And my answer was probably one of the shortest answers I give to questions on stage. And that is, your life is your legacy. And I started thinking about that. Well, I need to explain that a little bit more. What's that mean? And this story about Nobel really clarified it for me. You want to leave an intentional legacy, not an accidental one.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, Ivan, that was wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this podcast is sponsored by MeisnerAudioprograms.com. These audio programs will provide you with the tools and the inspiration to powerfully enhance your BNI experience. So check out the great material that's available to you at MeisnerAudioprograms.com and then use the promo code IVAN50 for 50% off of everything. All of the proceeds go to the BNI Foundation. Thank you so much for listening. This is Priscilla Rice, and we look forward to having you join us again next week for another exciting episode of the official BNI podcast.